So this is note page 2 from your Matter Unit 3 packet. We're continuing on from note page 1. What I want to do on this one is kind of focus in on the organic compounds themselves. Okay, so I got to move this over here because it's in the way. So we're going to talk about the organic compounds. Let's remind ourselves first that we don't call them organic in our mind anymore. We call them chorganic. And that reminds us two very important features of them, that they have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, CHO, and that they're chains of molecules. Okay, they're unlike inorganic or not organic compounds, which don't have CHO and are not chains. That's how we can make sure we remember them. Okay, I'm going to scroll down so we can see this chart. There are 4 main types of organic compounds. The first type is something you would find in bread or other types of materials that you would eat. So let me name them first. It's carbohydrates. Okay, you'd find carbohydrates in bread. You find it in starchy foods like potatoes and rice. You find it in cereal. You can find it in simple sugar candy bar type things that you would eat. Okay, now when you eat a carbohydrate, it's actually a chain of something, and don't mind my drawing ability here, but the chain of glucose molecules. So when you eat bread or any of those things I mentioned, you're actually eating a chain of glucose molecules. And so I'm trying to draw the chain in over the bread here so you can kind of see it, and you can draw it on your own note sheet as well so you can get a good visual. And so what happens is when you eat the bread or the starchy rice and potatoes, you end up with this chain of glucose molecules. That chain is too big to enter your cells or diffuse out of your digestive tract. So you digest it into the smaller pieces and you end up with just a big bunch of glucose. Now, glucose pieces are small enough to get into your blood and travel wherever they need to travel. Once they get in your blood, then you can travel them and they can do their job. Those glucose molecules, because they are sugar, it's easy to remember, they give you quick energy. Okay, so the glucose molecules that you digest from carbohydrates are used for quick energy. So ultimately, carbohydrates, when you eat them, are used for quick energy. Some other examples of organic compound carbohydrate would be starch. And what a starch is it's a complex carbohydrate. So basically, it's taking this carbohydrate chain and linking it with another chain and another chain and another chain. That's why starchy foods like potatoes feel a little heavier in their stomach. They fill you up a little bit more and they take longer to digest. Okay. Another example of a organic compound would be cellulose, and that's found in plant cell walls. So we don't need to know too much about that. I just want to give you more than one example. Okay, so that's our first organic compound. Again, the glucose has carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen because its formula is C6H12O6. So sorry about the non-capitals, but you can see it has C, H, and O in it. So that, therefore, this whole thing is organic. The next one is protein, okay, or proteins. You get proteins when you eat meat and other kinds of chicken and poultry and beans, okay? When you eat these proteins, you're literally eating the proteins from another plant or animal. So in this case, you don't have a chain of glucose molecules, but you'll have a chain of, let's see if I can find some blue here. You'll have a chain of amino acids. So in this case, if I could draw that square, okay, you'd have a bunch of amino acids chained together. Now I'm going to put 3 or 4 in here, but in a real amino acid chain of proteins, you would have hundreds to hundreds of thousands. But this time it is a chorganic chain, but it's a chain of amino acids. Okay, amino acids make up those proteins, and what happens is when you eat your proteins, these things get digested into the pieces of amino acids, they get into your blood, and then you can travel them to your cells. Once they're in your cells can use them to do jobs in your body. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tell you the job, and I'm going to tell you what the organic compound that does it. So one job of proteins is to speed up chemical reactions. And the thing that does that is an enzyme. Okay, we're going to talk a lot about enzymes in the next part of this unit, so I'm not going to go in too far on that. Another thing that is a protein is something we learned in our last unit. It fights foreign invaders And hopefully you know that that would be an antibody. Okay, so that's another kind of protein. Another one that we learned from last unit is one that sends messages, and those would be hormones. Okay, another possibility is anything that's structural. Those would be like your bones, your skin, your organs, anything like that, your hair, et cetera, et cetera. Those are all proteins. And I can go even further and say that the pigments or colors in your body, like your eye coloring, your skin coloring, and things like that, those are all proteins. So pretty much a large portion of your body is proteins, and they're all made from amino acids that you get from eating protein-based materials, then you take those amino acids and put them back together to make your own enzymes, antibodies, hormones, bones, skin, hair, coloring, and things like that. So that's a pretty complicated one. We're going to talk a lot about proteins in the next couple of units. Okay, this next one we're going to go really quickly over. It's pretty simple. It's lipids, or otherwise known as fats. Okay, you get them when you eat, and this is a bowl of butter. Okay, anytime you eat anything fatty or greasy, you'll get that. They are, again, a chain because they're organic, but this time they'd be a chain of those fatty acids. Okay, it's hard to see there, but basically I'm just taking this picture and trying to line it up in a chain. Again, you eat the fats, the lipids, they digest the fatty acids, and when you get done, the job that they do for your body is they help to keep you warm. That keeps you warm, okay? And they also help to give you stored energy. So if you run out of your carbohydrate energy, your body can switch to the stored energy. Some examples of fats in your body would be things like your earwax, which is kind of gross, okay, your body fat, and things that keep you warm and protected. The last organic compound, so again, we're listed, these are all organic compounds. They all have CHO. I did not put formulas in for amino acids and fatty acids, and I won't also for nucleotides because they're more complicated and they have lots of different kinds of formulas, but they all do, I will assure you, have C, H, and O in them. This last one is called nucleic acids. Okay, and you can see this picture. It's something like DNA, or we'll learn in the future unit, something called RNA is another example. Again, you have to eat things that have DNA and RNA. That's why we eat other animals and plants. We then break down their DNA and RNA into their nucleotides. And once we break them into their nucleotides, then we can put together our own nucleic acids. So not the best artist here, but we take their nucleotides. And we're going to learn in a future unit how very much more complicated this chain is. But the nucleic acid is made up of a chain called nucleotides. We eat them and digest them. Then when we break them down, we can put them into our body. Some jobs that they do is they take care of our hereditary information. So they store our hereditary info. Sorry about this stuff not quite fitting in the boxes. Okay, they store hereditary info. That means the directions that you got from your mom and dad. And two examples that you'll need to know of these are DNA and RNA. And it's nice because nucleic acid is literally the NA. It's deoxyribonucleic acid, ribonucleic acid. And again, we're going to expand on these in Unit 5. So don't worry too much about them right now. Okay, so what you see on this page now are the 4 types of organic compounds. All 4 are chains of smaller molecules, and the smaller molecules all have CHO at least in them. Proteins actually have a nitrogen as well, so they have CHON, and nucleotides has phosphorus, so they have CHONP, but they have at least CHO, and they are chains, therefore they are CHO-organic molecules. And each and every type has a job or jobs they can do in your body, and there's examples of them that you can see. What you're going to do for your next virtual assignment is going to be to complete pages 3 and 4 based off of these notes. So please get yourself started on that, and we are all set. If I can figure out how to turn this off, which I don't know how to.